Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit. I'm here to ask and answer one simple question. WTF is Invisible Ink? Well, it's a clever title to begin with. It used to go by the name of Incognita, which is a game that I covered several years ago at PAX in a very, very early state. It was renamed to Invisible Ink, which is frankly a far better title, and it's by a company called Klei, who you may be familiar with if you've played games like Don't Starve, or Mark of the Ninja, or my personal favorite, Shank. They make some interesting games, and they're perhaps most known for their very unique art style. Art style isn't really a fair way to describe it, because they do a different aesthetic for every game they do. And it's strange, because it's almost recognizably Klei, but simultaneously, each game they do is suitably different in aesthetic to stand on its own 2 feet, but you could point to it and say, yeah, that's... Klei did that, right? You could even look at it and say, yeah, that's a Klei aesthetic, which is a very odd situation. I don't think there's many games developers that can really fall into the category of being able to create games with noticeably different aesthetics, but with this interesting theme, almost this signature style running throughout them. Whatever the case, what you can say is that Klei uses a very unique aesthetic in every one of its games, and it's one of the standout features of Invisible Ink as well. And of course it was in pretty much every other game that they made. The question is, what is it? Is it any good? Is it worth playing? Is it worth the price of admission? Well, that is a great question, and that's what I'm going to answer for you. So, I've actually played through the campaign once, which took me about 5 or 6 hours. This game is designed to be played through multiple times. The campaign is not that long. In fact, the game is based around a 72-hour period, whereby you are flying around the world doing various missions, and once you reach the 0 hour, you are forced into the final mission, and you may succeed, you may not. If you don't succeed, that's the end of the game, and you start anew. But it's got a little bit of a roguelike roguelike is not really the right term. Roguelite metagame to it, whereby every time you do a campaign, whether you succeed or fail, you gain experience, which gives you more unlocks, so you play again. Now, speaking of playing again, this game has a lot of different difficulty levels. It's actually highly customizable in that respect. It has 3 standard difficulty levels. I've beaten it on beginner, which allows you to retry a level. It also gives you 5 rewinds, which are basically undos that sends you back to the previous turn. Now, if you look at expert, you get 1 rewind. Yeah, that's pretty brutal. And that's not all, because you also have advanced modes, Expert Plus, where they hide the danger zones, which makes the game extremely difficult. It also increases the alarm level when you knock out guards and so on and so forth. So at this point, the game pretty much becomes a stealth game as opposed to anything else. And in fact, stealth is a fairly important element of the game. There's then an endless mode here, which is like, how long can you survive? Then endless plus, time attack, and a custom difficulty level, which actually has a lot of customization within it. So they're banking on this being the replayability. It generates levels randomly, so you're never going to see the same level twice, although you are going to see a lot of the same features. The game doesn't have a huge variety of different doodads that will be found on each level. In fact, most of the levels look very, very similar in terms of aesthetic and in terms of the kind of things that you're going to encounter. But let's jump into experience, shall we? And we'll start off this game and show you exactly what you can do with it. As I said, I have already beaten it. We'll skip through this. I don't want to spoil too much. Now, I'm able to select 4 different agents here. Now, you can unlock a bunch more, 6 more, in fact, based on how many playthroughs and how much experience you've earned. And each of these agents has a different set of equipment to start with, a different set of stats, and is usually equipped to do a certain thing. So Decker, for instance, starts off with a modded cloaking rig, enabling you to go invisible for a turn, and also neural networking, allowing the agent to uncover demons in adjacent objects, whereas International, she's got a wireless emitter, which allows her to hack from a distance and automatically reveals mainframes and consoles and things through walls. Super useful. They both start with a neural disruptor, which is your standard melee weapon, which will knock out a character for 3 turns. Now, if I wanted to switch things around a little bit, I could switch out to Shalem, for instance, who actually has a sniper rifle, so that will kill people. It might be worth going for that just to show you the mechanics of actually killing people. You might think, oh, you can kill people, that's great. It's actually not as good as you might think, and you're about to discover why that is. He also comes with enhanced optics, meaning it gets +1 armor penetration on ranged weapons and so on and so forth. So we can start off with this team, and we're able to gain more agents by rescuing them. What we can also do is customize the programs that we bring into the game. So Power Drip gives me 1 power per turn, that's a passive. I could grab Fusion, these are all unlocks. So I grab Fusion here, And we'll probably want to go with lockpick. It's probably the most useful. All right, cool. So we can jump into the game. Yes, it's 2074 and corporations rule the world with brutal efficiency. Basically, this is a corporate espionage stealth game. It is turn-based tactics. It might remind you somewhat of XCOM, although there are some fairly critical differences, I have to say. All right, we're going to fly over here, and we're going to infiltrate. So you can see the hours remaining here that I was talking about. Once you run out of hours, you'll be forced into the final mission. So you get about, I think about 6 or 7, maybe 8 missions, depending on how far you travel. You can get more missions if you travel to closer locations. Once you've unveiled the map, you're able to access different locations, which will give you different bonuses and benefits. So let's jump in and see what's going on here. All right, so here you are, teleporting into the level, and immediately see, hey, yeah, that looks like a Klei game, doesn't it? It does. It's very pretty, I've got to say. I mean, we zoom in here, and we see a wonderful little aesthetic as your Dick Tracy gumshoe-style character, and this fella right here with the pencil mustache and the sniper rifle. It's nice, colorful sort of pastel shading going on. Good animation quality as well, frankly. Very stylized. All right. So with these 2 characters, you've got action points. Very standard for a turn-based tactics game. That means you can spend action points to do different things, and in this case, I'm going to peek through here. Anything to see? No, not by the looks of it. Okay, so looks like we should be able to safely open that door, and I'm going to send my fellow right through here. Yep, nothing to worry about. Hello, there's actually a guard over there. Let's kill him and show you exactly what's going on with that, shall we? So, killing guards is maybe not the best idea. I was talking earlier about lethal versus non-lethal, and also how this is a stealth game. Well, it's probably best not to shoot this guy, but I'm going to show you what happens if you do. If I kill him, then it's going to raise the security level, because he has a heartbeat monitor. So if he dies, this is going to raise the security level. The higher the security level gets, the more difficult the level's going to become. So you're going to activate additional cameras, things are going to get harder to hack, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to kill him just to show you how it works. Pop, and there he goes. All right, he's dead. So that's going to increase the security level because, well, we killed one of their security guards. The more you kill people, the worse it's going to get, but you don't really get the opportunity to kill too many people because ammo in this game for deadly weapons is very, very hard to acquire. It's very expensive. So you're mostly reliant on your disruptor, which is a melee stun weapon, and it will keep enemies down for like 2 or 3 turns. So it gives you enough time to get the hell out of there, really. And that's about it. Now, outside of that, for hacking, you also have what's called Incognito, which is an AI, and this runs off the power resource. So in this case, I can break the firewall on this safe, which will allow me to, unsurprisingly, open the safe. I'm just going to end the turn so that I can go into that. And you spend power in order to disable things like cameras and security levels, and you are also able to use it to steal things, which is exactly what I'm going to do here. 150 credits in that safe. Nice. We can hack this one and hack this one. These are nice and easy, so we might as well do that. Now, running over here might be a bit risky, but if I move into cover, I should be fine. So no one's going to spot me here. Pop over here, open this safe, and grab what's in it. And it turns out there is an item, Paralyzer, which I need a skill level to use, which I currently don't have. And so on and so forth. So you can see how it works. It's very similar to games like XCOM. Pretty much anything that's grid-based, action point-based, it's going to be fairly familiar to you. But there are a couple of differences. One thing, as I mentioned before, the obvious difference is that, unlike XCOM, you are trying to avoid killing people as much as possible, because killing people is, one, very expensive to do. Sometimes it's necessary, because there might be a guard who's just got so many abilities, is really dangerous. You need to take him out rather than temporarily stun him. But it's going to cost you money, because you have to actually pay for reloads, and they're very, very expensive, and also even quite hard to acquire. There's no store that you can buy stuff from, except within specific levels. There's something called a nano fabricator. What that allows you to do is move into a level. Looks like there's a camera behind there. The problem is I can't see it. So if I move in here, I'm actually going to activate the camera, which is going to increase the alarm level. Just want to show you how that works. There we go, and I can now hack the camera and disable it. You can find a nano fabricator in certain types of mission, and you can hack it in order to buy certain items. They're kind of randomly generated. So you might not get the items that you need, and you're mostly just salvaging and scavenging, which is a pretty cool idea, honestly. You start with bare minimum resources, and you're trying your best to acquire gear and upgrades, which will allow you to survive as things get more and more difficult, which is a fairly cool idea, I think. That's the teleporter out, so we're not too interested in that right now. We're going to head over in this direction. And the roguelite nature comes into play based on the fact that the items are randomly generated. So every playthrough, you're going to be dealing with different augmentations, different weapons, and different items, simply because you can't reliably acquire the same gear every playthrough. That might be appealing to a lot of people. I can certainly see why, simply because it does give you a bit of replayability, and it also gives you this feeling that you've got to work with what you've got. It's very much an idea of improvisation. But most of the time, you're sneaking around, and indeed the ideal way of dealing with things is to not attract attention at all, and the game has a robust cover system to allow you to do that. What you also might have noticed is that there's no percentage-based hit chance. That's a key component of the game. Yes, there is some randomness in terms of the level generation, in terms of the items you gain access to, but the actual game mechanics are very reliable, and in fact the game systems and mechanics have no random nature to them whatsoever. So if you sneak up behind someone and you jab them with the disruptor, it will stun them for a certain amount of time, based on what kind of disruptor you're using. Well, we have no energy to hack whatsoever right now, but we can go to this console, hack it, and that should give me some more energy to break through these security beams. It's the same with firearms. You are automatically going to hit as long as you have line of sight, and that is a guaranteed kill, with the exception of whether or not a trooper is wearing armor, in which case you can either kill him or not kill him. There's no middle ground. Either you have the armor piercing you need to break it, or you don't. And that means that the game is, I would say, a bit more tactical than a game like XCOM, because there is absolutely no reliance whatsoever on RNG. None. Zero. That doesn't mean that XCOM isn't tactical. It is. But this game is a game that rewards deliberate decision-making, and it never punishes you. And I'm going to have to bloody move into the... I hate doing this. I should... If I'd brought the character with the wireless detector, I would be able to see this. But as it stands, I can't do that. Can't even disable the security camera. I might even have to shoot it, actually. Oh, there's a safe area here, and then I can hack this, and that will allow me to disable that. There we go. That should do the trick. Disable the power supply, which should take the beams offline. Nice. Yeah, every decision is very deliberate, and you have only yourself to blame when you make a mistake. You do have a certain number of rewinds, depending on how difficult you decided to make the game. But, as I said, really, you only have yourself to blame if you fail. I'm just going to take this out just for the sake of it. You don't want to be shooting cameras most of the time. It's super expensive to do it. And that's a very attractive element of the game. It really takes a lot of the RNG out of tactics games. And let's be honest, a lot of tactics games have that RNG element to them. Surprising number, in fact. Classics, absolute classics like XCOM have that sort of element to them, which is maybe a little bit surprising to a lot of people, I think. But it's there, and it is a key component of the genre. But Invisible Ink decided, no, we're going to do away with that. And I view that as a positive, honestly, I do. What I will say is that mechanically it's very robust, but it's also fairly simple. That doesn't make it easy, but it makes it reasonably simple. So the combat is, I wouldn't even say like watered down or anything like that. I think probably the best way to describe the combat is, look, the combat is exactly as functional as it needs to be. Nothing too fancy about it whatsoever. Either you hit or you don't. You go up behind someone outside of their line of sight, you jab them with the disruptor, or you shoot them if you happen to feel like that. And the stealth is very much a case of, if you move into a red zone, you're spotted. If you get spotted, and then you move while you're still in a red zone, unless you move immediately behind cover, you are shot and killed by the guard. Immediately. And that's going to happen every single time. Which makes it almost a little bit more like a puzzle game than anything else. But I can appreciate that. I think that's a good way of doing things, honestly. I'm setting up an Overwatch here, so that hopefully once he runs through this door, he's going to get jabbed. Oh, and I messed that up completely. Oops. Didn't actually mean to do that. Alright, what if I put him here, just directly in front, and then set an ambush with him? That should work, hopefully. I hope, anyway. They didn't mess this up too much. I can appreciate that. I think some people are going to say, you know what, I think that's a little bit too simple. I can get that. I can understand why you would believe that to be the case. But I can appreciate the puzzle-like nature of it. And I think that if you're going to focus a game on stealth, then you need to make sure that the stealth systems are reliable and predictable, because otherwise people will feel screwed over by that game. So I think it was wise for them to do it this way. Outside of that, as I said, the game's got about 5 or 6 hours of gameplay before you beat the campaign the first time, and then you are encouraged to play it multiple times. And the game gets harder the further through the game you get. What I will say is the final mission has something of a difficulty spike, to say the least. I think it's absolutely fair to say that the last mission is a pretty huge difficulty spike. It introduces you to 2 new enemy types immediately, which are vastly more powerful than what you were dealing with previously, which makes preparation for those enemy types a little bit tricky. I think that they could have ramped that up a little bit better, frankly. Oh, hello! Alright, that's bad news. Quick, close the door! And he's got to be coming in this general direction, so the hope is, if he runs through the door, I can just ambush him and then just jab him down. That should do the job, I think. I think we'll probably want to activate fusion, which is going to increase my power generation. There we go. I'm currently pinning this guy to the floor to make sure he can't do anything. I think it's going to be down to whether or not you enjoy the systems behind the game, as to whether or not you're interested in playing it multiple times. Some people are far more interested in, say, a cogent storyline, which this game lacks. I think it's totally fair to say it has very little storyline whatsoever. And unfortunately, he actually was able to KO my agent by knocking him down with the door, which was unfortunate. I probably shouldn't have waited there. That was fairly silly. And as a result, I'm probably going to lose this mission. But there you go. I didn't say it was an easy game. It's not. Absolutely is not. And the game does have permadeath, so you do have to watch out for that as well. Oh, he's going to get back up, but there's now multiple guards, so everything has gone horribly wrong, and down he goes. Oops. Might be time to leave this mission, actually. Otherwise, we are going to lose. So, we can rewind, of course, if we wish. And that will hopefully give us the ability to not get screwed over horribly. There we go. So if you are looking for the longer burn, if you're looking for something like, say, I think we can go back even further than that. If you're looking for something like, say, XCOM, which has a pretty reasonable game length and will keep you going for quite some time, this game is not that. This game is expecting you to play some of the same missions through again with the sort of random generation going on, which I don't think is unreasonable, frankly. I think that's okay. I don't mind that too much. And it's expecting you to really enjoy the stealth game mechanics. And not really be interested in more of a tactical combat simulator, because that's not what it is. This is about heists, it's about sneaking, it's about stealing, it's about scavenging resources. That's what this game is all about.
There's the executive terminal. I bet they're writing gripping TPS reports on that.
And that is going to be difficult to get to, because there are actually 2 guards there. So, ideally, what we probably want to do is move our other guy through as well, but he's actually out of ammunition and his disruptor is on cooldown, because screw you. I'm going to get detected by the cameras again. It's an absolute nightmare. So does that sound good to you? Is that the sort of thing that you're after? Are you looking for a stealthy alternative to something like XCOM? If you are, then I think you're going to find a great deal to like here. Assuming that you are not too obsessed with the plot, and assuming that you are willing to play sort of 5 or 6 hour sessions and then reset things and go through it again. If you're willing to do all of those things, great. I mean, Invisible Ink is a nicely complete product, in my honest opinion, in that respect. Now we're gonna lose. It's that simple. I could stealth out of here, but that's really about it. Just going to steal his valuables, because why the hell not? There we go. Thank you very much. Activate the cloak and try and run away. Don't know how the hell he's going to get away, but we'll see. I think that it's a reasonable package, honestly. It would be nice to see some DLC for it. It would be nice to see some expansion in terms of the amount of items available, the amount of enemy types, and so on and so forth. I think, obviously, the replayability is going to be hurt a little bit by that, but I haven't played it through multiple times, so I don't really know just how many items there are. And I would imagine that once you unlock all of the other agent types, there's quite a lot to like here, assuming that you like playing the same thing on a higher difficulty level. Outside of the lack of plot, there's really not an awful lot to criticize in terms of it being a tactical stealth game. It's got great music, it's got a fantastic art style, it's got very reliable and sensible game mechanics. No, let's not do that. Let's just KO him. There we go. No reliance on randomness in terms of the game mechanics anyway. There is a little bit in terms of the way that the game actually works. And the way that the levels are designed. Oh, we can't unlock that. That's bad news. I've actually screwed myself over completely here. But I guess for demonstration purposes, it doesn't really matter too much. But it's nice to have mechanics that do exactly what they say on the tin. I've got to appreciate that. Now, we'll have a quick look at the options menu before we bring up our conclusion. There's actually quite a lot going for it here. You'll notice a decent amount of options in terms of the visuals. But what's perhaps more important is it actually has proper colorblind settings. In fact, 3 different types of color deficient options here, which is nice to see. You generally don't see a great deal of that, and I encourage more companies to do it. You can customize refresh rate, resolution. For some inexplicable reason, when you go windowed mode, it actually makes the game slightly smaller than it should be. You'll see that weird resolution down there, but you can even customize which display you're on if you're using a multi-monitor setup like I am. So that's good. Sound options are fairly basic. Would be nice to see sort of a separate slider for narration. That would be good. And outside of that, in the gameplay options, you can speed the game up a little bit. You can increase edge pan. You can also put on your captions if you so desire. And there are some language options, and the workshop actually has additional language packs. I don't think there's any modding going on yet for this. I did look at the workshop, and there was only language packs. It would be nice to see that. And you've also got, if you so desire, which I don't use at all, rebindable keys. I mean, this game is fully mouse-driven, so you don't necessarily need fully rebindable keys, but it's nice to have them anyway. I mean, why would I complain about them including that feature? I wouldn't. It's really that simple. Time to leave, I think. We've clearly screwed this one up. You can obviously escape with your agents, and it's well recommended that you do, because anyone you leave behind is dead. It's that simple. And I screwed this up with my power management, so I can't even raid what I need to do. Yeah, you've got to plan this out pretty carefully, and if you don't, then you're in a lot of trouble. Very easy to screw this up, I've got to say. But I like Invisible Ink a great deal. I think it is a nicely put together game. I probably had my fill of it, but that's just because I have so many other games to play right now. I think, frankly, that you will get a great deal out of it. Down he goes. If you happen to be into the tactics and stealth genre. Because there aren't all that many tactical stealth games around. Most of it is combat, and the combat in this game, as I mentioned before, it plays second fiddle to the stealth, frankly, and the occasional jabbing of people with tasers. It's really solid. It's got a lot going for it, frankly. If you're looking for a tactical stealth game, there aren't that many options on the market, and this is a very, very good one in its own right. Just don't expect too great a plot, because, frankly, there isn't one. It's really that simple. If you like randomly generated levels, if you like 5 to 6 hour campaigns, if you happen to like the sort of roguelite meta game of progression and unlocking new characters and weapons and items, and having a little bit of a different experience every time, Invisible Ink is probably for you, and you should certainly have a look at it. Invisible Ink, ladies and gentlemen, available on Axiom Esports sponsor GOG.com, as well as on Steam for $20 or your regional equivalent. My name has been TotalBiscuit. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.